Buonasera a tutti. Good evening to all of you connected from Italy, and good morning to our speakers from New York and California. Today we'll present to you cooperation between Italian Trade Agency, that is the government agency to support the process of internationalization of small and medium enterprises, and wine.com, the largest e-commerce in the United States. Here with us, dealing with the promotion that is in progress, the director of Italian Trade Agency unit in New York, and at the same time, director of the whole network of the agency in the United States, Mr. Antonino Laspina. Ciao Nino, buonasera, anzi buongiorno. I present you also my colleague, Josaphat Rigano, senior representative of e-commerce team of our agency. Buonasera, Joe.
Buonasera.
And connected from California, Mr. Mike Osborne, founder and the deputy president of wine.com. Good morning, Michael. Happy to meet you virtually. Who will introduce American market with a special focus on e-commerce, and with him, Alex Gerger. Good morning, Alex, and happy to meet you too, always virtually. Senior Director of Merchandising in wine.com, who will illustrate how to interact with the platform and especially best practices in use at the moment on wine.com. Just a few words to close my presentation concerning questions. Questions will be dealt in the Q&A session, and for questions that will not receive an answer because of lack of time, we'll send you an email in the next few days. This is only the first of the 3 appointments dedicated to US market, and the details about the other appointments will be given by the next speakers during the session. With great pleasure, I give the floor to Mr. Laspina. Prego Antonino, a te la parola.
Grazie tante Anna Flavia. Thank you very much, Anna Flavia. I'm very delighted to be here today and celebrate, if you want, the wine from Italy. The way we are going to celebrate wine from Italy is to give the Italian winemakers one more opportunity, one more chance to be in touch with the US market by having a great opportunity of collaboration with wine.com. We know that for many of the Italian products to be exported around the world, there are 3 challenges. One is the digitization, is the way they are going to face the problems that are coming in terms of e-commerce and in terms of digital marketing. The second challenge is coming from communication, new way of communication, new tools for the communication. Everybody talks about the social communication, and this is, of course, a great challenge, is a great opportunity at the same time. And then the third challenge is coming from the distribution. We need to help the Italian companies, and at the same time, the Italian companies have to develop new skills, new capacity of doing the better distribution. I think that this project of wine.com is going to give, if you want, in a certain way, a kind of response to the 3 challenges, because we are going to help the Italian company to take advantage of the great success of wine.com in the market, and by developing a certain kind of knowledge and skills in the operation with wine.com, we think that in the future they will be equipped and fit to try to be in touch with the market with different experiences in the e-trade. The e-trade is, the e-commerce is developing quite fast in the United States. It was already a way of distributing and selling products, but we have seen now that during the COVID period, products in the sector of food, of the wine and the fashion have been increasing a lot, tremendously amount of goods now are distributed with the e-trade and the e-commerce. So this is a great opportunity for the Italian winemakers to add this kind of distribution, this kind of channel to the existing channels. Why wine is very important for the Italian companies in this market? Because the wine altogether has about $2 billion of US dollars of export, even more. And now is continuing to grow, if you want. And it's very important because among all the export of the sector of the food in the United States, the wine is about 35% of our export. This means that in certain years, we are in the top position in terms of amount of the value of the export to the United States with France. But I would like to say that, for instance, during the year 2020, Italy exported more than France in this market. White and reds are almost equally important. And what is important as well is the growth that we see for the sparkling wines. I can show you here some pies with the shares of the different products, where you can see, as I already mentioned, white wines and red wines, more or less the same importance. You can see how important is the export of sparkling wines with about 23%. And we know that this pie is going to grow further. And we have also an interesting growth that we have seen in the vermouth and altri vini aromatizzati, in the spirits. And as a matter of fact, we can say that the boom of the mixology in this market has secured the sector of the spirits interesting growth, not only in this part of the year, but even during the year 2020. So we have all positive trends, and we hope that with this kind of collaboration with wine.com, these trends are going to be stronger and stronger. Let's see now the Italian wine import in detail. As I already mentioned, the total of the year 2020 was 1,923 million of export of wine. I'm talking about dollars. And the values you can see is more or less 657 for white wine, 622 for red wine, sparkling 451, and rosé. Rosé, I think, is going to be a very important sector of our export because there is an interesting trend of growth. And as a matter of fact, in coming days, coming weeks, we are going to present a very special market research that we have conducted with a specialized company on the market of the rosé wine in the United States. So I invite all the people to pay attention for this event that is in the calendar and has been already advertised by the headquarters of each in Rome. But let's see how interesting is at the same time the partial value related to the year 2021. As of the end of September 2021, we can see that we have already a growth of 20% compared to the same period of the previous year. And we can see the plus for every segment of the wine that we are exporting to the United States. The white wines are more 12%, 12% red wines, 39%, almost 40% for the sparkling wines. And surprisingly, we are going to see that 56% is the growth of the rosé wines compared to the previous year, which is very interesting because we asked the specialized company to conduct the research because we were, with our team of specialists of the wine in the office, we were feeling that something was changed vis-a-vis the penetration of the rosé wines in this market. And as you can see, at the end of September, we have seen a very interesting growth in terms of value for the rosé wines. The export of wine, as everybody knows, has been, of course, negatively affected by the tariffs that now, thanks God, have been removed. So what is the market share now is a market that is not strongly affected by the tariffs. And we have this, I think, clear picture now at the end of September 2021, with Italy that has the 33.18% of the market, with France 35%, 83% of the market, and Spain is very far, very distant from our positions with a 5.87% of the market. This means that once again, the competition, very fierce competition, is between Italy and France. But I would say that in consideration of the activity of promotion that we are going to organize for future and coming months and coming years, I feel very confident about the fact that the competition can give back the first position to the Italian wines in this market. What we are going to do, basically, for the promotion of the year 2021-22, we are trying to resume at full steam the trade events and the partnerships. We have this activity with the wine.com. There will be the continuation of the support to trade tastings in the United States with a very important collaboration with Slow Wine, Gambero Rosso, and the IEM. And of course, very important will be the continuation of the project of the incoming trips to Italy on the occasion of exhibitions and fairs in Italy, but also the incoming trips organized to visit the area where we are very strong in the production of quality wines. There will be the continuation of the project of the communication through the dedicated website and social media presence. And I think it's going to be very interesting, the education program, the training for US wine trade. So it's an education that is intended for trying to attract the trade in order to make more interesting for them business with the Italian wines. And what is new in this project is that we are going to reach more cities of what we have done in the past. Now we have 12 cities with a goal of reaching about 800 buyers and educators. And a lot of initiatives in terms of communication and education will be dedicated in this metropolis that in the past have not been very much touched by our activity, while we think that many metropolis in areas such as Texas, Arizona, and Midwest, now they have the great opportunity for the expansion of the trade of wine, and this is where we are going to concentrate our activity in the future. Of course, we are not ignoring traditional places such as New York, Los Angeles, and other cities, but this is what we are going to do even in the future. What is wine.com agreement and collaboration between Italy and wine.com, between the Italian Trade Agency and wine.com? This is to be considered the most inclusive agreement for wine and spirit in the US in order to help as many brands as possible to increase their sales. Wine.com has more than 1,200 Italian brands. No other chain retail has this huge portfolio, and they can reach 40 states. As you know, there are many differences in terms of regulations for the distribution of wine in the states, the member states of the federal state, and I think we have a great opportunity with wine.com to reach 40 states. This is going to be the beginning of a long-term strategy to increase the digital visibility of Italian brands, especially towards millennials and Generation Z, Gen Z. We are going to reach high-spending consumers that are also travelers, because I think it's very important, the travel to Italy. We know for sure that at the time that the American travelers have reached Italy, or sometimes even other countries where Italy has a very good penetration, they will get some kind of familiarization with our products. So this, if you want, is a kind of education that we can develop furthermore with wine.com. This, in addition, will give the possibility to 50 new brands to be onboarded in the year 2022. Wine.com is the only US partner who could have the power to insert so many new brands and to get to such a big distribution in the USA. This new 50 new brands are 35 in the sector of wine and 15 in the sector of the spirits. I insist on the fact that there are great opportunities of expansion even for the spirits. So I would like to thank wine.com for accepting also this combination of the newcomers, sharing 35 with 15 for the two sectors. My idea is that it's a great opportunity for the wine to grow in this market, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank very much the representative of wine.com. We have negotiated quite a long time in order to define in the details this kind of collaboration, and I'm very confident that during the realization of this project, we can also have a fine-tuning of the collaboration that is going to be the precondition for a successful collaboration. I would like to thank all of you for this participation at this event, and at the end of the presentation, the technical presentation, I intend to have a wrap-up and give you some more information about this project. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Nino, for your presentation. We hope that Italian producers of wine will appreciate the further potential of the United States market in this moment. As you remember, USA is the first market of destination of Italian export of wine, and this position can be reinforced further also with our cooperation with the wine.com. Now I leave the floor to my colleague, Mr. Rigano, who will talk to us about wine global online and offline revenue forecast and about the goals and content of our cooperation with the wine.com. Prego, Joe, a te la parola.
Thank you, Anna Flavia. Thank you, Nino. Good evening and good morning, everyone. So please, 1 second, I will launch my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Wonderful. So generally speaking, the Italian trade agency digital strategy is based on 3 main pillars. A partnership agreement, and this is the first point, quite important. The second is the online and promotion and communication. And the third one is the training. So the collaboration with wine.com is a tangible example of such strategy. And before describing the project in details, let me spend only 1 minute on the next chart. So this slide and the next one are self-explaining and highlight why Italian trade agency negotiated and agreed with the wine.com, the most important wine and spirits platform in US, able to reach more than 40 states in US market, as the Italian Trade Commissioner in New York said just before. On this slide, we can see the estimated market development, and the worldwide e-commerce revenue is expected to grow to $4.2 trillion by 2025. And on the right side of this chart, permit me to say, the e-commerce planisphere, we see that US and China are the largest worldwide markets for e-commerce. This second slide shows the percentages of wine online versus offline revenue forecast worldwide and in US market as well. In 2021, the 60% of wine revenue in US market comes from e-commerce, and this shows how important the digital channel is for wine and spirits in US market. So let's see the main goals and contents of our partnership agreement. As you know, Italian trade agency primary goals are to promote the authenticity and increase the number of authentic made in Italy products available on wine.com platform. The collaboration between Italian trade agency and wine.com will last 1 year until September 2022. The partnership will include digital promotional activities on wine.com and will focus on making US consumers more aware of Italian wines and spirits in order to expand sales and selection of wine. All digital and promotional materials produced for the initiative will include the overall graphic design and logos created by the Italian trade agency. And each will support wine.com to create contents and to realize contents for the custom URL and sale page, a landing page specifically dedicated to Italy, to Italian regions, to Italian grape varietals. And wine.com will optimize it for SEO purposes, for searching engine optimization purposes. As I said before, the first pillar is the agreement, is the partnership agreement. The second pillar of our strategy, of the Italian trade agency strategy, is the online promotion, the digital promotion and communication. So based on an editorial calendar, Italian trade agency and wine.com promotional activities will include social media posts on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, dedicated emails featuring different aspects and stories of Italian wine and spirits, banners on the website and newsletters, mail communications such as package insert and direct mail, plus 10% discount codes on Italian wines and spirits, lasting for the entire promotional period related to wine, and with a 3-month duration for spirits. And finally, for virtual online testing for American consumers. As I said, the third part, the third component of our strategy is the training. So after the partnership agreement, after the online promotion and communication, online seminars characterize our activity, our strategy, our digital strategy. So Italian trade agency, and wine.com will hold training seminars for Italian wineries and spirit producers interested in the US market and the promotion. And I will be back on this point later on. As I said before, Italian trade agency primary goal is to increase the number of authentic made in Italy products available on the platform, apart from the initial promotion of the current 500 and more Italian companies already onboarded. Wine.com will also introduce, as Mr. Laspina said, 50 new Italian wine and spirits producers. That means 10% more on wine.com portfolio of Italian companies currently available on the platform. 35 for wine plus 15 for spirits from the second quarter of 2022. But why? Let me stay on this slide for a while. Why we decided to wait the second quarter of 2022? We decided that for several reasons. First of all, is to give companies enough time to present this opportunity to their importers. In this way, they can analyze together the best strategy for their brands. The second reason is to avoid the peak festive season, especially in November and December, during which companies and importers are busy with their activities. And the third reason is to give Italian companies the possibility to take part to all the webinars so that they have a full picture of the opportunities in the US market. So Italian trade agency will collaborate with wine.com to source the new Italian products, and wine.com will select new Italian wine and spirit producers from the Italian trade agency list of potential Italian suppliers applying for our promotion. Of course, previous experience on digital platforms will be very positively evaluated. Now the onboarding process. So, and this is the timing. Starting from January 2022, Italian trade agency will advertise the initiative and collect applications from interested Italian wineries and spirit producers. The applicants' products must be, and this is really important, already imported into the US market and have distributors in New York and or California states, where wine.com holds the main logistic hubs and buying offices where to operate. In February 2022, Italian trade agency will provide the list of candidates with contact details of their distributors in US. And by the end of March 2022, wine.com will select Italian wineries and spirits producers and negotiate with their US partners. Last but not least, the participation for Italian companies to the project will be free of charge. The Italian producers will be considered onboarded when at least one stock keeping unit, when at least one brand is available in the online store. As I said before, training is the third component of the Italian trade agency's digital strategy. So, seminar activities are really and deeply important just to get ready to e-commerce. And for this reason, let me say that, and I would like to draw your attention to these events. After today's seminar, on November 17, we will have a webinar organized by the Italian Trade Agency New York office, focusing on rosé wines. As Mr. Laspina said in his presentation, the perspectives, the opportunities for this segment of in the wine market in US are really brilliant and astonishing. That's why Ms. Katie Hughes, a famous journalist from Forbes, she will illustrate her market research on this specific topic segment. On 23rd November, there will be a second seminar focusing on the US market of wine and spirits, organized again by the Italian Trade Agency New York office, and thanks to the presentation of Mirella Menglide and Paola Pavan, the two FMB trade analysts of New York office of the Italian Trade Agency, you can receive hints and tips, suggestions on the opportunities, on the capabilities, on the three-tier system in the US wine market. And finally, after the onboarding procedure after the selection from wine.com of the 50 newcomers, I mean the 50 new Italian companies onboarded. For these companies, there will be a specific training session organized by wine.com just to increase the capability of optimize the technicalities and the traffic, and increase the visibility, and above all increase the sales on wine.com platform. So please, my suggestion before my conclusion, of course, is to book in your agenda these appointments, and apart from the Q&A session later on, should you have any further question or request of clarification, please contact us. And these, on the right side of this slide, my final slide, there are our references. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe, and thanks so much for details you gave concerning next appointments and requirements for next onboarding on wine.com. Now I give the floor to Mr. Osborne. Please, Mike, give to our Italian companies online the most useful information for a good performance on wine.com.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening and good morning to those in the U.S. perhaps watching as well. It's a pleasure to be a part of this, and certainly having just heard the comments from the leadership of the Italian Trade Agency, I can tell already we are so closely aligned with the business and even trends. I'm anxious, as well as you, to hear more about the rosé growth that we could have from Italy, because certainly other countries have been over-indexing in rosé, and our customers are not tired of it, right? It's absolutely a growth opportunity. It's not a fad. So we're mighty excited about that. I'll just take a few minutes to describe the business, and then I will perhaps use some slides to illustrate why we're very optimistic about the continued growth of young consumers adopting wine and young consumers adopting e-commerce with wine, and the reasons for that. But first, just a little bit of background, perhaps. Again, I happen to have found this company in 1998. So we are a bit of the, we are the pioneers of e-commerce with wine, and now with wine and spirits in the US. The company is headquartered in San Francisco, but our most significant operational center is in New York, and also here in the Bay Area of California. And we have 5 additional operation centers. They're in Massachusetts, also in New Jersey, in Columbus, Ohio, in Miami, Florida, and in Houston, Texas. The importance of commenting on that, and things that will follow up with other ways to engage with us, is that you are likely aware that our government regulations are very strong. So unlike other consumer goods that can be moved about the country, wine and spirits cannot be. And we have specific licenses, those 7 logistics centers, we call them, but they're retail licensed stores that operate as warehouses, service consumers then in 42 states today. The company's revenue is exceeded $300 million now, making us the leader in e-commerce in the US for certain, and I believe globally. There's no company that is a pure play e-commerce, like is only thing we do at that turnover, and it is all company revenue, because we are the retailer that's selling wine to consumers. We use a partner to ship it. In our case, it's FedEx, but it could be other shipping partners. But I just wanted to be very clear that our business, it doesn't have more people in it. It's already complicated enough to buy from importers and wholesalers and to us, right? And then we sell to consumers. It is not permitted for wine.com to sell to restaurants or to other retailers. So you can consider, when we speak about our business, It's entirely direct to consumer that we perform. In those states, you know, obviously in the last year and a half, we've had a chance to be introduced to many more consumers. Part of it was obviously they were sheltered in place for a number of weeks and through and perhaps even months in some states in 2020. So last year we had a year of tremendous growth, but that now that we have, you know, comped on, we've finished passing the full year of that, we're back into a significant amount of planned growth for the future. I'll touch on spirits for a moment because it's even more highly regulated than wine. We sell spirits in New York, in California, Florida, and New Jersey. That's about 40% of our total available market. So it's not insignificant. It's just that spirits are not permitted to be shipped across a state line. So when we buy any of your spirits from Italy in New York, it will stay in New York State. Same with Florida, same with California. So it's a very, very restrictive business, but it's one where we have found our customers enjoying spirits, and I'll show you, you know, some results of that very soon. And so let me share that because I think it's important to set some I'll share my screen here for a moment and set some contrasting information about our business compared to the US business. On this particular chart, I want to point out that the wine.com customers are a more premium tier of customer than the broad US market. By broad US market, I will use the Nielsen data. They are one of the more significant sources for average selling price and trends in the United States. So I could show you here that our spirits business, which we just launched 2 years ago, but has an average selling price consumers buy from us of $55, whereas the average in the US is $22. On still wine, it's even more remarkably different. Our customers buy wine at $28 on average, $28.66 for still wine compared to the US average, and this is in a 750 milliliter bottle from Nielsen of $11.67. So nearly 3 times the difference. In sparkling wine, something again with incredible trends behind it, is also very different. Our sparkling wine does include Alti Longue. It does include Trento Doc. It includes beyond Prosecco, if you will, but Prosecco is very important to US consumers, and again, something with great growth and potential. Something again to contrast our business compared to the US, I want to show you a chart of our import business compared to our domestic wine business. And actually something I have missing here is what the US market really looks like. 70%, roughly 70% of all wine sold in the United States is domestic US wine, primarily from California. But in our business, for years and years, we have been really a balance of 50% and 50%. But in 2020, we had 52% imported wine, so the majority. And so far this year, for the first 10 months of 2021, that is even more profound. It's 55% of our business is imported wine. One of the reasons we believe it's the trend is that young consumers have been navigating to imported wine in a different way than their parents have. And I want to show you this pie chart. This is the customer age group of each of our customers who have transacted with us in the past. In this particular case, it's very recent, so I'm giving you a 10-month view. And so this is 500,000 consumers, and this is where they fall. Millennials and Gen Z represent 35% of our business. Gen X, which is a very narrow band of those born from 1964 to 76, is 30% of our business, almost equal to that of the boomers, where the majority of wine has been consumed by, again, other retailers. This is why e-commerce is so different. It's definitely more youthful than most retailers. And those older than boomers represent less than 5% of our business. What's quite interesting, when I lay on top of that, back to the average selling price by those demographics, it gives you another viewpoint. At nearly $32 a bottle, the most expensive wine on average gets sold to the youngest consumers, whereas their parents or perhaps grandparents are drinking the least expensive wine on average. So this is meant to just demonstrate, because oftentimes I'm asked, I bet those young consumers navigate to the cheap wines, and it's simply not true. The most expensive wines in every one of these categories map on very well. So this really does provide a path towards even a greater lifetime value when you're collecting consumers young in their age, and they have a chance to learn about wine early and discover wine and discover the world of wine as we described. It will be a very different outcome. I did want to contrast, just so you understand, that our full business is on one chart side, and the Italian wine business, you'd be happy to know that Italian wine maps right onto our demographic in about the same way that all of our business does. So again, 34%, 30%, a little higher in boomers than our own business. But this is not any, this is not statistically off-putting at all. Young consumers are loving Italian and will continue to, we believe. Something that we can back that up with is if we look at each generation, so this is millennials and Gen Z, X, boomers, and older, and the percentage by that demographic, you can see here how illustrative it is that younger consumers, so 58% of our millennials and Gen Z buy imported wine, whereas those older, it just drops down at each demographic generation. The importance of that, I hope I stopped sharing my screen. Yes, thank you. The importance of that is it really does bode well for something that young consumers, we know about them, they have a passport earlier than their parents' generation did. And I wanted to go back to the comments that our executives of ITA mentioned, and that is that travel and food and tourism are a big part of the lives of consumers in the States. And you certainly, under normal circumstances, Italy has appreciated a lot of tourism from the US. We are anxious to see that continue. We are also anxious to give a customer of ours a chance to learn more about Italian wine, plan their vacations as 2022 and 2023 open up and the restrictions are eliminated, and we have a chance to make those tours again. So I want to introduce my colleague, Alex Gerger, who runs our merchandising. So all of our supplier facing and wholesaler facing executives that call on the company, it is his team who interface with them. And he's going to give you a little more insight, maybe some brass tacks, if you will, of how to interface with the company.
Thanks, Mike. Grazie. Buongiorno. Buonasera a tutti. I just want to sort of echo some of the comments from Mike as well as Joe and Direttore La Spina about using the word celebrate, right? Celebrating Italian wine. That's why we're here, and that's what wine.com, I think, when you distill it down, yes, we sell the wines and we get them to consumers' hands, but it's really about celebrating the product, the wine that you all produce and you grow and you put so much labor and love into it, and we want to celebrate that. And I think this is a great occasion to bring more excellent wines to the U.S., to our consumers, to continue that celebration. So appreciate the opportunity. So as Mike said, I'm in charge of the buying team, so we have a lot of we influence the assortment and what the consumers see and what's available. And so this is where the 50 brands that Joe talked about, this is where we will be obviously looking at all the applications and helping that selection process. So I'll go in and share some slides a little bit more about how this all works. How does this actually get to the consumer through us? So 1 second here. Let me know if that's visible. Può vedere? Yeah, good. Okay. So Several of the other speakers mentioned the e-commerce model and the three-tier e-commerce model. Mike talked about the complexities of our regulatory environment, right? And it very particular to wine and even more so for spirits. We are a retailer first and foremost, so we are connecting the consumer with the bottle. But in order for us to get it, there's a lot of other steps before that. The wineries and the producers, you are making great product. We want you to continue to make great wine, make great spirits, but that's only step one. Then the wine needs to get into the US through an importer, and then the importer needs to have a licensed stocking wholesaler in the markets where we work. And what that means, this is a very key step, and that what that means is that the importer is selling to a wholesaler or distributor that is, a viable business entity in the states, the 7 states where we work with. That means they're probably selling wines to restaurants and stores and other retailers. This is the primary business that they're in, is bringing wine in and getting it into other outlets, other channels. So, it needs to be a organization that, we probably have a pre-existing relationship. We work with, many hundreds of wholesalers throughout the U.S. In all of our markets. So the chances are that, this is a business partner that we already have, and we want to continue that and just add more items to the mix. So that's sort of the steps to get to where we have the wines on the site. Supplier making wines, importing to the US, the wholesaler bringing us the cases, and then we are telling the story. We are putting the wines available, and then we're making them attractive to customers through the online shopping experience, letting them discover new rosés from Italy, regions, new varieties, all the great things out there. I mean, we already have, like we talked about, over 1,000 different brands represented, but we're hungry for more. And looking at the slides that Mike showed, so is the consumer. There's plenty of appetite, or I guess I should say thirst, for more great Italian wines. So here's a little bit more detail about what the two sides do as the supplier and then on the wholesaler on the right. The supplier, you as the producer are both the supplier, and then the importer is also kind of acting as your representative here. And so the importer has responsibilities to select a distributor, maintain the inventory, maintain the stock stateside, and be purchasing from the winery, working out the pricing. How do we best position different brands, different appellations for the market to be attractive to the consumer, understanding where those trends are. And wine.com, as Mike shared, we don't have any real barriers. We're not concerned about a certain price that is going to be a turnoff or going to hurt sales. We want to have quality, we want to have value, but value is something that can be at any price, right? It's still relative term there. We'll talk a little bit more about content and some of that explanation to the consumer about selling, and that's a responsibility of the winery as well as the importer and supplier. But again, working with the importer on the wholesaler is a key step in the evaluation process, but also just in the ongoing continuity of the sales for wine.com. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what does the customer actually see. What is the shopping experience for your wine to a consumer on wine.com? Here's a very well-known Piemonte producer, and this is a product page on wine.com right now. So our model is kind of a combination of physical inventory, so bottles that we have in 7 logistics centers, but also we are receiving data from the wholesaler about what stock they have in their warehouse that can be available to us on the next delivery. And this is where using a reliable, viable wholesaler is really critical to the success. The job doesn't stop once the wine gets into the States. It has to go to a wholesaler that's able to engage with this model and provide the right information and be accurate on vintage and cost and availability. So in this particular model, and this example, I should say, we see that this wine has 5 bottles where it says it ships today. So this means these 5 bottles are in our warehouse, are in our logistics right now. So if a customer wanted 1 to 5 bottles, they could get that shipped out, and it'll be probably at their doorstep tomorrow. If they want more than that, there's down here, it says that it ships next week on Tuesday. So now this is inventory that's at the wholesaler. This is not in our possession, but we know that we can place a purchase order and receive that in a day or 2, and then we can turn it around and ship it out to the customer. So this is what we refer to as our virtual stock. So this is inventory that we're showing as available to the customer to purchase, and as soon as we receive that customer order, we will order it from the wholesaler, and then it's their job to get us that inventory the next day, or in some very, very short amount of time. And that's an operational imperative on the wholesaler. For this to work, they need to be able to keep up that end of the bargain. I talked a little bit about content, about the shopping experience for the customers. This is we have a very highly trained content team that receives assets, digital assets, marketing information, scores, videos, pictures of the winery, the bottles, anything at all that will enhance the customer experience with your brands, with your wines and spirits on the site. That goes through our content team. And as you spend some time on wine.com, you'll understand it's a very rich digital environment. We're trying to replicate and enhance a shopping experience that you might have at your favorite retail store, with having that personal connection, being able to learn about the winery, what the vintage was like, what about the grapes, anything that you could possibly want to know. We want to be able to provide that content to the consumer so they can make a great decision and discover something new. We also have a team of what we call recommendations agents through online chat that also are able to engage with customers as they're shopping online, and have that one-to-one communication, even though it's digital, it's online, but it's still able to have that individual touch point with the consumer. And that's another I think tremendous service at wine.com that allows you to have that connection and touch point with the customer and tell the story. So now we'll look actually what does a page look like on wine.com, and what's a good example of things that are enhanced and optimized for this selling experience. So here's an example of our friends, our good partners up in Trento at Ferrari, sparkling producer. We talked a lot about sparkling not just being about Prosecco. Well, Ferrari is a great example of that. This is their brand page at the top, and you see there's a little map. Where is the winery? There's videos, there's pictures of people, there's pictures of the winery, there's pictures of grapes, there's captions. It's really a very informative and pleasing experience to the customer, where you can learn all that you need to know about that. And this is something that you control too. So this is you provide us this information, and we get it on the site and present it to the customer. So the better content that we receive from you, the better this looks. This is a totally on the supplier or the winery's side, and this is reaching millions of people. So this is really a great platform to tell your story and bring that to the world. So here's the next level down. Now we're looking at a specific item, and this is called the PIP, the product information page, where we highlight specific vintage and tell the story about that. So here we have the label, the bottle image, all of the ratings and scores that I have received. So that's something that's pretty important to us and to our consumers, is keeping that up to date and accurate as a measure of quality. There's customer ratings down here, that little star with the 4.1. So that means that customers on their own have provided a rating after tasting the wine. That's another piece of the selling experience that really enhances what the how the customer makes their decision. There's also plenty of space for winemaker notes. Again, this is content that you provide us. We don't make this up. We don't author a lot of our own content. This is what you give us. We may edit it a little bit for copy and content, but this is your opportunity to speak directly to the customer, and then we go more in depth with some of the reviews and ratings that you see there too. So that was kind of just a quick walkthrough on some of the more nuts and bolts side of the business. But I absolutely look forward to answering some questions as we go on, and my team and I will be looking forward to seeing the submissions and getting to know plenty of new suppliers and producers out there, and bringing those to our customers next year. Thank you very much. Grazie a tutti.
Thanks so much, Alex and Mike, for your presentation, not only concerning characteristics of wine.com, but also market trends and distribution online and offline, information that are very useful for our wineries interested of US market. About the session of question about questions that I received, I can say that the question that arises more often concerns wineries that aren't imported or distributed in US market. We can confirm that two important requirements are necessary to send application for our next onboarding in 2022. To be imported in the USA and to have a distributor in the state of California or New York, where wine.com has the most important hubs. Do you want to add some other evaluation concerning this point in order to satisfy questions presented by more than 4 wineries that we are online with us?
Maybe I can take the question that the issue isn't that, here's the issue at hand. We are a licensed retailer, and as a result, we are forbidden. It is against the laws of the US for us to be a wholesaler or an importer of wine. And we have presence in more than one state. They do permit, if you were only a store in New York, you can be an importer and a retailer in New York State, but you cannot ever have a presence outside of it. In that example, since we are a national company with 7 warehouses, but we have more than 30 licenses to serve those states, we have to be extraordinarily compliant. And as a result, what we absolutely cannot do is do anything else unbecoming. So yeah, you would engage a US importer or a US wholesaler who can sometimes import, and that is the fundamental need. We don't sell any private label wines. We don't cause any wines to be made. I never want to compete with our great winery partners globally. And so let's face it, we might be just lousy winemakers, and you're not. So the example here is that we really like to see your wines getting into other accounts as well, and at restaurants. And you can't do that without having distribution and partnerships with importers and wholesalers. So that's very collaborative, and but it is a necessity. I think the ITA can be helpful in pointing out the leading importers of Italian wine in the US. And we certainly work with almost all of them, if not every one, who have distribution. The point of view of New York and California minimally being met, the reason that's important is that's about it's nearly 75% of our entire business is conducted between New York and our California warehouse. They service other nearby states, whereas the other 5 warehouses accommodate then about a quarter of the business. So we wouldn't say with the requirement that you must have a wholesaler in Columbus, Ohio to work with us, or a wholesaler in Massachusetts, in Boston as an example. But if you don't have a wholesaler in those states, those consumers in Ohio, those consumers in Massachusetts will never see your wine, because it's not possible for us to ship wine into those states. We have to buy it in the state of Ohio to service customers in big cities like Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati, Ohio. That's a local business. But this is back to one of our principal jobs, as you might appreciate now that you've heard this from us, is running a very regulatory compliant business to promote growth. And this is why, one of the reasons why the adoption of wine in e-commerce has been difficult, because there aren't any shortcuts. It is a very rigorous environment. And now with our growth, we are able to get to scale in those other states as well.
Thanks so much. Very clear. Very clear. Another question concerning trends of a market about zero alcohol wines or zero alcohol amaro. Have you a sentiment concerning these trends?
You know, if we do have an assortment of zero alcohol, it's very, very small today. And we haven't, we at this early point with those, you know, and there's a lot of new introductions or low alcohol or zero alcohol products. It's really not been something of our focus. So we would have incomplete data to share.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks for your attention. And before giving the floor to my colleague, Mr. Laspina, for the closing greetings, I remind to all the listening companies that Agri-Food and Wine unit in Rome remain at your disposal for all the further information that should be necessary. You can send an email to our address vini@ice.it and you'll receive an answer as soon as possible. Please, Nino.
Thank you very much, Anna Flavia, the colleagues in Rome that have made possible also the definition of this agreement, because they have been very helpful in assisting us for all the authorization and the signatures that are necessary for the takeoff of a project like this one. It is, I think, the first example of this collaboration in the US market. So we are very glad that we found a very good collaboration. I think that with this technical speeches by Mike and Alex, we have been able to give additional information, not only about the functioning of the project with wine.com, but about also the way the market in the United States is working. Everybody knows how is, let's say, complicated. Is not a simple market, but with the contribution of this speeches, I think even for people that are not very much into the market, this is a good opportunity to start thinking about the opportunities of this market in the US. I would like also to thank very much Tim Taylor, that I call the negotiator on behalf of wine.com, because since the first time that I contacted him, he paid attention to the possibility of having the Italian trade agency and Italy as a partner for the first time for a project like this. I think this has been a very important act of confidence on the possibility that in simply a few months we could define, even at the time that everybody knows it was not difficult to interact due to the COVID restrictions. Nevertheless, we were able to finalize this project. The project wine.com, as has been already illustrated, is part of a wider strategy. It is not one action in the market. Wine.com should be considered as one of the tools that we give to the Italian companies as a way of entering the market, developing their presence in the market with what we call now a multi-channel, experience. That's why I insist we are going to have in coming months opportunities for the Italian companies to know more about the market. And let me switch to the Italian. Vorrei dire alle aziende italiane che appunto il progetto wine.com è uno dei tanti strumenti che l'ICE ha messo a disposizione delle imprese italiane nel settore del vino per accrescere la loro presenza sul mercato americano, sul mercato statunitense e per le aziende nuove per entrare su questo mercato. Sappiamo quanto difficile sia per certi aspetti l'aspetto della distribuzione sul mercato, ma attraverso i seminari che andremo a condurre e portare avanti prossimamente, anche con la collaborazione di wine.com, penso che sarà possibile per le imprese, anche per i newcomers, sfruttare da un lato il veicolo wine.com, ma anche cercare di presentarsi ai potenziali importatori e distributori americani. Nelle prossime settimane abbiamo 2 appuntamenti. Uno è quello che ho già citato, e il collega appunto Joseph Adriano aveva citato, che era quello del vino rosé, il mercato del rosé che avete visto sta crescendo e può costituire un importante segmento. Basti considerare che la Francia alla fine del 2019 aveva esportato 200 milioni di dollari di rosé. I valori del rosé francese sono andati molto giù nel 2020, tuttavia questo segnala ancora una forte presenza del mercato del rosé che secondo alcune indicazioni dovrebbe crescere ulteriormente e come avete visto anche l'Italia continua a crescere in questa parte del 2021. E poi una parte importante è quella del seminario che si terrà il 23 novembre dove il team del wine di New York sarà a disposizione per un seminario squisitamente tecnico. L'idea è che accanto agli interventi che sono stati fatti da Mike e da Alex ci sia poi uno specifico intervento tecnico da parte della squadra del vino, in questo caso sarà la nostra trade analyst Paola Pavan, che sarà a disposizione per tutti quei chiarimenti sulle technicalities di come si esporta il vino in questo mercato, in modo da ritrovarci al momento in cui si partirà con il progetto wine.com ad avere un allineamento di diverse centinaia di imprese con maggiori informazioni tecniche per questo mercato. Quindi chiuderei qui ringraziando ancora una volta i colleghi e la partnership di wine.com e confermo la disponibilità naturalmente dell'ufficio di New York assieme a quella degli uffici di Roma, come evidenziato dalla collega Anna Flavia Pascarelli, che siamo a disposizione perché questa nostra azione di facilitazione di arrivo al mercato possa mettersi in atto quotidianamente. Thank you very much, and I hope that this is going to be a very good start for a very important project like Italian trade agency wine.com. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Buonasera a tutti.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Buonasera.